Hello, everybody, and welcome to SWAC Den, SWAC Now. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michael Jones, and my partner is Michael Bledsoe
Alcorn State Braves
in the house.
in the house.
How you doing, Bledsoe?
Pretty good.
Pretty
Mike
good,
Jones, how are you?
man. Try my best to make it. Try my best to make it. Um, I guess we need to go ahead and give a little short intro to our our third co-host and guest for tonight's show, and he is no other than Parnell Dickinson of Mississippi Valley State. As a quarterback, his name Pay Dirt was maintaining the ability to score touchdowns as a passer, running, and receiver. In 1972, he led the SWAC with total offense and was selected as first team NAIA All-American. In 1975, he was named HBCU All-American, NAIA, and NCAA All-American. In 1976, he became the first black quarterback drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We want to welcome our co-host and today's guest, Parnell Pay Dirt Dickinson, to the show. SWAC in, SWAC now. What's up, Parnell?
Good evening, gentlemen. It's so good to see you guys. I tell you what, all was well until I hear you guys tried to team up with me talking about Alcorn Braves, and it's just one of me. But that's okay. We can deal with that.
Hey man, this is HBCU love, SWAC love, Mississippi love. That's how we're gonna do it here.
Yeah, I like it. I love it. And to be honest with you, that's why I'm here, because of the love that I have for the SWAC, as well as Alcorn, Mississippi Valley, Grambling, Texas Southern, Jackson State, Prairie View, Alabama State, Alabama A&M, Florida A&M. Hey, the SWAC is it.
Hey, that's how we're gonna do this show.
All right.
So Parnell, you said that we double team you, right?
Well, you know what? That's kind of common when you come down to me, because when I was playing ball, my best receiver was always double team. In my line of business, I was always double team. So it's kind of, something that I'm used to.
So you're used to those kind of double team scores as well, right?
Yeah. Since you brought that up, yep, I'm used to that too. But the tide will turn.
The tide will turn. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Hey, Parnell, before we proceed with the show, one thing I want to mention right quick, and I think this is a big deal. I was just reading, and this is presented by HBCU Game Day. There are a total of 23 HBCU players on NFL rosters opening up this weekend. I think that's a big deal.
Well, it's absolutely incredible, but I'm old school, and the kind of way I look at things, a lot of those guys that are on those teams should have been drafted. But, I guess, the upper hand is figuring that, hey, once we give them a chance, they're going to make the team. So why draft them? Let's just get them as a free agent. But that's going to change.
You think so?
Oh, yeah, that's going to change, because what is happening now is that, with the transfer portal and all of, the different nuances that the SWAC and the league has now, they're going to have to be some changes. So our guys it's going to get back like it was during my time, where, you're going to have 5 or 6 guys being drafted off, SWAC schools every year. But, it's just like anything else. You build a new house, stay in that house 5 or 10 years. 15 years, you got to get a new roof. Same thing with this. We're in the process of remodeling now. And I'm confident, and I'm thankful that the leadership that we've got now, and our commissioner and our coaches that we're bringing aboard now, they've got the SWAC at heart, and we're getting ready to turn the corner again this year.
Well, one thing I want to say this by conferences. I'm not going to repeat all the conferences, but the SWAC has a total of 15 in the league. The MEAC has 10. SIEC has 3. CIAA has 2, and I think Freshers is leading our level, a total of 6 players.
Yeah, I thought we had a total of 17, and SIAC had one. But you know
Well,
you
you may be correct because I'm sitting here looking at this now. It says 15 plus 3.
okay.
So if that's correct, then it's 17 for the SWAC and 11 for the MEAC, 5
Yeah,
for the SAIC, and 3 for the CIAA.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a better number. But yeah, I think right now with in the direction that we're headed, I think we're headed in the right direction. And with the TV, kids now understand, and they it's becoming more and more apparent to them that, hey, why do I need to sit on the bench? I can go to the SWAC and be a great athlete from day one moving forward. I mean, you just look at just the numbers that you said. You got 17 guys that were free agents, that was except for one that was drafted. That's from the HBCU. So that's remarkable.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's remarkable.
And I don't know if you guys know this too. Before we proceed with the show, let's SWAC now want to send his condolences out to former MVSU coach, baseball coach Doug Shank. He passed away early
Yeah.
in the week. So
Yes.
we want to send our prayers out to his family and to the MVSU family.
Absolutely. Doug did a fantastic job at Mississippi Valley while he was there. Won some SWAC championships and just, brought our baseball program, up to the level, that it is now. But as I said earlier, you just got to keep building brick by brick by brick. You know what I mean? But yes,
Right.
condolences to his family. He did a remarkable job at Valley.
So
So
bless.
good, Parnell. Mike, I don't mean to cut you off. I want to ask a question to Parnell because I see all of this doggone metal behind him. He's sitting there with his hands all clasped, got his ball cap on, got a big grin on his face. What is all that behind him? That's what I want to know.
Well, as Mike was reading my bio, I just decided that I'd let you see it. You know what I mean? A lot of times you can hear what people say, but it's hard not to believe it when you can see it. So the bio that Mike introduced me from, that's the results right there behind me.
Okay, good deal. It makes me curious though, because a young man, 17, 18 years old from Alabama. I would like to know what's the first thing come to your head when you stepped on that MVSU campus. When you saw that campus, what's the first thing that went through your head?
Well, before I can tell you what I saw on the campus, I got to tell you how I got there. Okay.
Okay, tell us how you got there.
Hey, partner, before you start that, did you take a recruiting visit to MVSU?
Yeah, after my father had made my decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Proceed with your story, brother.
Yeah, but Coach Weatherby, who's still to me one of the greatest coaches and greatest men that I've ever met, because one thing he did exactly what he told my father that he was going to do when I left. But he came to see me play. I didn't realize he was there, didn't know who he was. But when I got home, he was at my house. And the way I grew up, I couldn't leave the stadium and go to a little get together. I had to go back home and get permission again. But when I got back home to get permission, he was there. But I got two of my buddies that had drove to the house for me to ride back to the little after the game get together. And I'm trying to hurry up and get out of the house because I had where I come up, I had a curfew. I couldn't be out to 12 and 1 o'clock at night, So I'm trying to hurry up and get out of the house. But Coach Weatherby is there and he's talking to my parents. He's talking to me, telling me he want me to come to Valley. And the last thing he said to me before my daddy told me that I could leave and I knew what time to get back, he asked me, would I come to Mississippi Valley? So of course, I said, yeah. And he reached out his hand and I shook his hand and I left. So in February, when it come time to go and visit schools and national letters of intent and all that kind of stuff, it was a little different than it is now. But when he came back, I had several trips to other schools, and my mother was trying to get it, lined up, how I was going to get there, who I was going to be with, and all that. And Coach Weatherby happened to come back to my house that morning in February. Probably it had to be probably around 5 or 6 o'clock because my father was getting up to go to work. And I heard my mother say there's somebody parked in front of the house. It was Coach Weatherby. So my father went out and invited him in and then got me in the room. So told me he was coming to sign me my scholarship. So I was like, well, I don't think I'm gonna be able to sign today because I got some more trips to take. Alcorn was one of those trips too, and my daddy stopped me in the middle of the process. He said, wait a minute. He looked at my mother. He told my mother. He said, there's no reason to figure out what other trips he's gonna take. He said, looked at me. He said, Parnell. He said, when this man was here a month or two ago, or however long it was, he said, you shook his hand. He said, let me tell you, a handshake is a man's word. So he said, you've already made your decision where you're going to school. So he said, well, you need to sign these papers this man got so I can get out of here and go to work. And that was the end of it. That was it. But when I left home that Sunday after graduating on a Thursday, and they put me on that bus Sunday to go to Itabena, pulled up at the four-ways at the stop sign up there on the corner from the school. I see this burgundy, I think it was a Mercury sitting up there. Get off the bus. It was Coach Weatherby. And I looked over there. I had been to the campus, once before then, but I didn't really have a chance to kind of just, really smoke it over than I could do. I just was going. But this particular time, I got my trunk with me. That means I'm coming to stay. And I looked over there and I saw the campus and I was like, wow, this looks like this is where I'm gonna be the next 4 years. It was beautiful. Grass was so pretty and green. The buildings would look so nice and pretty and clean. It wasn't, when I think about it now, there wasn't a whole lot of them, but a country boy like me, it was a lot of them then. I was excited. I knew, hey, he was gonna take care of me because that's what he told my parents. But I knew I had to, do my part. So it was I would say it was a kind of bittersweet experience because I left high school and I didn't have but 2 days. I graduated on a Thursday and I didn't get a chance to go to none of the high school parties or graduation parties or any of that because I left early Sunday morning. I got on the Trailway bus at 5 o'clock. So that Friday and Saturday, I was getting my stuff together to go to school. But wasn't no time until my going, party. I had to get ready to go to school because that was a commitment that I didn't realize I had made it, but I made a commitment, so I had to, you know, get there and do what I need to do, and not really knowing a whole lot about college ball at the time. I was just playing, but I learned real quick. I had to.
Well, partner, you put up some pretty awesome numbers at Valley, and you couldn't have done that without some of the players that you played with. Can you just speak briefly about some of those guys that helped you get
Yeah,
elevated to that level?
yeah. You know, no, we didn't win the SWAC championship or anything like that in my 4 years, but I can tell you this. I had some guys that played with me that I think was awesome. One in particular, he's deceased now. Played left tackle, and he was a great guy. I had Larry McGill who played guard. I had Steely Townsend who played uh, a tackle. Uh, the other guy was a senior. The one I was thinking of deceased, he's gone now. My receivers, Ricky Features, 12 years with the Cleveland Browns. Robert Gaddis, Pittsburgh Steelers, Buffalo Bills, 12 years in the USFL with Toronto. Mr. Hayes, who's deceased now, who was out there with Oakland and the Oakland and the USFL team. Donald Doty, who came in my senior, who was a freshman, who I thought was a great young freshman. Spencer Smith. I had, I mean, for me to be in Canton, Ohio, I had the best supporting cast that a quarterback could have.
Hey, Parnell, pull your mic a little bit closer to you, and I think we're also getting some feedback in the background. Maybe you may want to close the door. I think we can. I can hear some ladies or something in the background or something.
Not here.
Okay.
I'm here by myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a TV on?
Nope.
Okay. Okay.
Nope. But yeah, I had a man. I had a great 4 years at Valleys. You know, God has truly blessed me and still blessing me, and I've gone a lot of different places, had an opportunity to do a lot of different things. But I always go back to the 4 years that I spent there. I met my wife there, who I've been with now for 51 years. My son was born there, who turned 50 years old last week. And hey, what more can a guy ask for out of his college? I got 2 degrees, so I mean, hey, what more can you ask for?
And another blessing, you just have a granddaughter to receive her PhD.
My granddaughter just got her PhD, who is a Jackson State graduate in her undergraduate, and she went to Michigan State and got her master's and got her PhD, and she is now a part of the faculty and the research team at Ole Miss up in Oxford, Mississippi. As of she's been there now about a month. Yeah. So we are truly blessed, man, and I'm proud of her. And my other I got 2 grand boys that were ball players. They're now works for the Nordstrom Corporation that are doing fantastic. And then I got 5 little ones. So it's been, of course, my wife is retired. Thank bless her. So it's been good. I'm a blessed man. Absolutely.
Bless. I'm gonna let you ask the next question.
Well, you know, I'm going to ask the serious stuff, Parnell. So you can go ahead and get ready for the serious stuff when I come on.
Well, I'm a serious guy, and I know you are, so I don't expect nothing but that from you.
All right, then let's roll with this question.
Well, hey, fire away.
Okay, I'm gonna fire away. What was your first car on MSVU campus? What was the first car that you had?
The first car that I had, and I didn't get this car till after my son was born, and because I wanted to be able to go back and forth to see my son till my wife came back to school until we got him on campus. Believe it or not, it was what we call a deuce and a quarter, a 1974 door deuce and a quarter.
Oh man, you were rolling. Yep. So NIL was kicking back then, huh?
No, with no such thing as no NIL then. That ain't no tough question. My father was my NIL.
Oh man,
that's just like an Alkanite.
So
you ask me a question like that.
Well, partner, you just like being amongst great Alkanites, man. Even your head football coach at Valley was an Alkanite.
Yep, and my best friend is an Alkanite, Jimmy the Great. I call him the Great Jimmy Giles.
Jimmy Giles.
So I kid with him sometime. I tell him, I said, who would have thought a Delta Devil and a Brave would hook up like we've hooked up and be the best of friends? But like I say, anything is possible if you work at it, pray on it.
Well, we're not gonna talk about today. Today we're not gonna talk about you and Jim on the golf course. But let me ask you this, Parnell. During that era when you played in the SWAC, Man, that was probably considered considered the greatest era of the SWAC. Could you just briefly maybe name some of the players that you played against, maybe at Alcorn, Jackson State, Grambling, Southern?
Okay. Some of the names, but I'll give you enough, and you can help me with the names. I'll start with Alcorn first. Lawrence Pillows.
A beast.
Cameron was the linebacker with the white hat.
Okay.
William Woolley, who was the quarterback. Francis Reynolds, who was the slot back. Frank Roberts, who was a fullback, a H-back, and all of that. What's his name? Played receiver, number 5, went to the Chicago Bears. Brady. I'm trying to think of the defensive back name. I can't think of his name. But you guys
was Willie Alexander on that team then?
Willie Alexander.
And I want to say this. What about Joe Owens and what was the other big defensive tackle? That Alex Price.
Alex, I was just getting ready to say Alex Price. You see that spot right there on my jaw? My freshman year in 1976, we played Alcorn at Valley. Alcorn was undefeated. They was rated number 1 in the nation in small black college, okay? I didn't understand a whole lot about the Moreno Castle mystique and all that. You know, I'm just old country boy from Brighton. I'm just playing. But Alex Price was one of the toughest defensive players I've ever played against my freshman year. Alex Price probably hit me 6 or 7 times that game. This is after the ball is gone because, you know, I had kind of gotten to the point to where, you know, I was going to get that ball off regardless to the lick. I wasn't worried about no lick because I did have pretty good protection. But Alex Price was that whole defensive front. It was Alex Price. I can't think of it. It was 4 big boys on that line. And boy, they was coming. And Cameron in the middle. And we played them at Valley. And I think we lost. I can't remember the score, but it was a good game, good score. And nobody didn't even think we would even be in the game with Alcorn with that defense. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that year Alcorn had 4 guys that get drafted or went to the pros off of that defense. Jackson State, I think, had 5 that year that go off of that team. Roscoe Word, Vernon Perry. I can't think of that other Reese, that defensive lineman that they had back there. But all of those SWAC schools that I played against, Texas Southern, Prairie, all of them, there were 4 or 5 first or second, third round draft picks off every team that I played. I mean, doing game preparation time and scouting reports. You know, we had a coach who did it named Coach Vassar. And Coach Vassar back then, you know, we used to put stuff on the board. And when he'd get to one of them real great players, he'd have that crayon on that board. He'd be matching that crayon so that crayon would just crumble and be falling on the floor. I'm like, God, dog. But, you know, we were able to, you know, hang in there and here we are, 50-some years later and all this stuff like you see. And you see this hat. It says Black College Football Hall of Fame. So
hey, brother, you're in Canton.
Yeah, I'm in Canton.
Yeah, you're in Canton.
I live in Tampa, but I collect my mail in Canton. So, you know, I had a great supporting cast, man, with me. And I'm still appreciative to those guys. You know, every award, or even now, I was in Memphis receiving some awards, and every award that I get, I always, make this statement that I'm accepting this award on behalf of my teammates, and it's just, I'm receiving the reward, but it's a result of what all of my teammates did to help me. I would say, there's an old saying about a turtle on the fence, and I would say to them, I'm that turtle because I was helped up on that fence by all of my teammates.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a great, great, great time. And there was some great, great players. I just left Canton, just got back from Canton for the Black College Football Classic. And, just you up there with guys like Mel Blunt, Jimmy Giles, Doug Williams, James Shaq Harris, Greg Coleman, Frank Lewis, Robert Brazil, all of us were there. And it's a beautiful thing because, we're all cut from the same tree, but just from a different branch. So all of our stories are pretty much the same. Harold Jackson, all those guys, man. We were all up there in Camden. It's amazing when we all get together because I had this guy that was off from the side kind of watching, and he asked me, he said, man, he said, all you guys played against each other, but y'all act just like, you're a big family. I said, well, we are. I said, because we all cut, from the same tree. And I said, back during that time, when our parents handed us off to a coach like the great Eddie Robinson and Coach Willoughby and Coach Cassom and Bob Hill and all those guys like that, those coaches understood that, hey, their job had two main purposes: deliver us back to our parents as grown men, and make sure that we were great football players while they had us with a degree.
Well, I think a lot of people don't understand, but you remember, Parnell, when I first met you at one of the SWAC championship games through Jimmy, but then we started doing the Walter Payton Celebrity Golf Tournament. And man, for me to just sit back and listen to you guys tell you our stories, and then one of the guys brought up, hey, this HBCU thing is just one big black fraternity.
It is.
And it was
It
like
is.
once you got to that level, it was us against the world, and we made the HBCU proud, and we made it stick.
Yep. And here's the other thing. I would go on record as saying 95% of those guys, they graduated, got degrees. And for the audience that's listening out there, you're going to have an opportunity to hear some other stories of guys that played back then, just like you hearing mine. It's amazing how the correlation between us is, everybody is kind of fit in the same spot. Some of them were higher draft picks, played longer in the NFL, but if you go back, we all came from HBCUs. We all cut from the same tree. You think about guys like John Stallworth, guys like that. All those guys came into the SWAC just like I did. Parents said, hey, this is where you're going. Mel Blunt told his story. My daddy said, the man said, you're going to get a scholarship. That's where you're going. You know what I mean? So all of our stories are similar, and that's why I think we can all relate to each other so well. And we really and truly, man, we all just like brothers.
Well, our guest on today's show is Parnell Dickinson, and he's our guest for today, but in the near future, he's actually going to be one of our co-hosts on SWAC then, SWAC Now, and he's going to be responsible for interviewing a lot of those older players, and one of our missions is to go back and try to interview those guys that made the SWAC relevant back in those days too. So, and also we want to show the younger kids that, hey, if you go to an HBCU, you can achieve by going to an HBCU. It ain't all about going to Alabama and Clemson and
Yeah.
LSU and
Yeah.
Florida State, and those
Yeah.
students. You know.
You know what? This was some years back. I had a chance to go back to Birmingham to speak at it. It's called the Birmingham Grid Forecasters Banquet, where you had all the state uh, uh, high school players there. And I spoke, and the last thing that I said to them, I said, listen, I said, here's one thing you got to remember. And this is back then. And I didn't just, gain this mentality now that I'm an old man. I've always thought like this. And I said to them, I said, you got to always remember, guys, do not overlook your HBCUs because we know better and we know more about our kids than anybody. So you got to give us a chance. You got to give them a chance. Bigger ain't always better. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
here we are, because you can think about some of the great athletes that are retired and going on now. Hey, they come from HBCUs. You go up to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the Black College Football Hall of Fame. You'll see some names up in there, and you'll be like, he went to an HBCU. Yes, he did. It's amazing.
So Parnell, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You said you and one of the Alcorn Braves are best friends now. Well, I want to stay in the SWAC Den questionnaire category for me. So my question is, who is your favorite teammate?
I tell you what, man. I would say Robert Gaddis. He was my roommate for 4 years. Well, for 3 years, because he was a year ahead of me. And he's here right now in Tampa. Been here for years, and I talked him into coming here when I came here. And then I've got Robert Smith, who was the mayor in Columbus, Mississippi for about 16 years. Then I got Ricky Feature. Great friend, and Smitty. I call him Smitty. And Smitty played on the other side. He was a defensive player. And I guess a lot of people wonder, well, how you guys became the best of friends. But he was always the guy that would always some kind of way have something to say to me when that ball changed hand, when he was coming off the field and I was going on. He would always say something to me.
Well, Parnell, you played with
Always.
one. You played with one of my cousins, man. I used to hear him talk about playing up at Valley, and I used to thought he was just kidding. But what was it like playing with Larry McGill?
Larry McGill was what you call a warrior. Larry was not a big, tall guy, but Larry was strong, and Larry could power drive you. And Larry was one of those guys you could say, okay, it's 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4. If we're going to run, we need to go over here on this left side where he and Arcelius Townsend was. I mean, he was, man, that guy nose would be bleeding up here. But man, he just went into Mississippi Valley Hall of Fame, I think it was 2 years ago. He was just what you call a warrior. The guy that he's just not going to stop. I'm talking about when I say a warrior, he was a warrior, man. He was. I call him you call him Larry. I call him Warhorse.
Yeah.
That's his nickname, Warhorse. That's what we call him, Warhorse.
He made out SWAC a couple of years too, didn't he, Parnell?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yep. Yeah. Played left guard, number 66.
You remember his number, Parnell?
I should have his jersey hanging up behind me.
Well, I got to send him a copy of this video. So,
yeah. He was. You talking about? Hey, man, he was a warrior. He was a warrior. Wow. He was on my left side. Him and Arcelius Townsend. Wow. Was on my left side, and let me tell you, them boys could get it done.
Yeah, Larry McGill out of Laura, Mississippi.
Out of Laura, Mississippi. And we call him Warhorse. Cause he man, when he strapped that helmet up with that, he had that bird cage. His face, man, was different than any I ever seen. But man, he could get after you, boy. Lord have mercy. Yep.
Well, Parnell, when you were playing back then, when you look at those coaches like Bob Hill, Coach Weathersby, Eddie Robinson, Coach Castle, did you realize that you were looking at history back then, or it didn't really phase you?
You know what? It really didn't phase me because, like I said, when the time that I played Alcorn, and I didn't know the Marino Castle mystique. I was a freshman. I was just playing. But after the game, he came over to me, and this dawned on me years later. And he came over to me, came across the field, and he put his arm around me, and he said, "Son, you're gonna be a good athlete." He said, "You do what Redskin tell you." He said, "You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be something else." And when I went into the Black College Hall of Fame, he was there because he's my Black College Hall of Fame brother. And he repeated that same thing to me. I said, "Coach, I remember exactly what you said." I said, "But you know what? I just had no idea that you really meant what you said." He said, "Look where we at, baby." He said,
That
"Look where
sounds
we
like
at."
Coach.
He said, "Look where we at, baby." Just like that. I said, but I said, "Coach," I say, you're a great man to me. I said, but after that game, I knew what Marino Castle meant. I told him, I said, "Because you had some defenses that wouldn't break."
Yeah. Well,
Wouldn't
back
break.
then, Coach Castle was all about defense. His offense was
Man,
3 yards in the cloud of dust, and he won with defense.
Alcorn had defenses every year I played them.
Yeah.
Tough defenses.
They'll tell
But,
you.
like I say, back then, it didn't matter how tough they were. I had to play it. I mean, I knew they wasn't gonna take me out the game, so wasn't no need of me doing nothing but trying to get better. You know what I mean? I remember getting hit in the mouth that time I was telling you about. My jersey red in the front. I go to the sideline. I'm knowing they're gonna take me out the game. They wiped my face with that towel and said, "Run this." I had to go back out there. And I think I got 4 stitches or 5 stitches in my mouth after that game. But it was just the fact that you had no choice. Because if you missed a practice, you might not ever get your job back. Because when I played, I think my freshman year, we had 5 quarterbacks. And I was the youngest one. So I'm like, the time when I got hit and got my foot hurt, I was like, man, I gotta get me some vinegar and red clay mud and put on my ankle. Y'all don't know nothing about that though. Put on my ankle so I can get my ankle right, because if I can't practice this week, somebody may take my job. If I'm a freshman and I took some seniors, juniors, and sophomores, I'm like, no. That was the kind of the mentality that I had. I'm like, no. I didn't want nobody to take a snap.
Well, I don't think the players today realize the amount of talent that the SWAC had back then. Because you
Man,
remember back during that era, Ole Miss maybe had during that era they might have had maybe 2 black players.
might not have
So
had any.
yeah, so those
Come
players.
out 1972 now.
Yeah.
They didn't have any, because I think when I left home, Alabama may have had about 4 or
Wow.
5. Yeah, when I left going to college. To my 1976 now.
That's
To my
crazy. Somebody
1976.
somebody was telling me just recently that if you watch the 1974 Alcorn Jackson State game, you would have seen 26 players in the NFL the next year. That's
Absolutely.
that's unheard of. I don't think. Well, you may see that now in today's SEC, maybe
Mm-hmm.
with like an LSU and Alabama, but 26 players starting in the NFL the next year.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well,
in '74, Alcorn was Black national champs, and Jackson beat them that year. I think Jackson was 6-5, but that Jackson State team had 4 NFL Hall of Famers. Well, 3 NFL Hall of Famers on that team.
Walter Payton, Jackie Slater,
In Brazil.
Robert Brazil,
Well, see,
and
Lam Barnett he's another one of the JSU Hall of Famers, but he was way ahead of them.
Yeah,
Lam Barnett.
Lem Barnett, Hal Jackson.
Right.
Hey, so it was. Hey, Swag then was off the chain. Swag then was off the chain. But like I say, you know, back then you had to want it and want it where you were, because there wasn't no moving around and all that kind of stuff. You know, when you get to college, you know you got it's 4 or 5 guys that you got to battle. If you want to, I know at Valley, and I can imagine how it was at the other school, that you got to go through 4 or 5 guys. If you talking about you want to start, now I was an All-American, my sophomore year, junior, senior year. I wasn't gonna miss no practice. No, I was not gonna miss no practice, because you just don't know who might get in there and show you up. I went to summer school and worked out. I practiced every spring. I missed one game. I got my shoulder separated against who did I get mine? It might have been Prairie View. And I missed the Alcorn game in '74 when we came down there.
So Parnell,
Yes, sir.
question about who was the weakest team back in your era?
There wasn't any. There was none. We wasn't even weak, because when you came to Itabena and when you played us, you were playing me and my team. So there was no weak teams.
Okay, so you didn't have a bottom feeder in the SWAC when you were playing?
Well, you know, somebody got to be what? Back then it was 8 of us. Somebody had to be 6, 7, and 8. But that it wasn't because they were weak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It wasn't that was no weak teams in the SWAC during my time.
They were gonna let you know that you came through a ball game, huh, Parnell?
Hey, you knew you were in a ball game.
Well, Parnell, did you have the opportunity to play against some of those Prairie View greats, Otis Taylor and those guys, or they were ahead of your time?
Otis Taylor was ahead of me, but I got a chance to play, against, the Jimmy and Jesse Wolf, the Wolf boys. They were 2nd and 3rd round draft pick. I think they went to Pittsburgh. John Moe, John Moe got drafted by Cincinnati. I'm trying to think of the cornerback name that was out there during that time. Man, everybody was loaded. Phil Yard from Texas Southern, Pugh, Garland Montgomery, and all them guys. I played against all those cats. Like I say, every team in the SWAC during the time I played, that was 4, 5, or 6 first, second, third round draft pick on every team. Every team. I think my senior year, it was 6 of us, 3 free agents, and 3 of us were drafted. That's off of Valley. And we never won the SWAC. I think my first year we were 5-5. The next year we might have been 6-5, or we was over 500 every year I played. But we had some good teams. The other team just was better.
So Parnell,
Yes, sir.
We've been talking about SWAC then, I want to ask you a SWAC now question.
Okay.
And that SWAC now question would be this. Tell me what's the difference in the players then versus the players now in the SWAC, in your
Well,
opinion?
in my opinion, the players then became great players with nothing but their talent and heart. That's it. The nutrition wasn't what it is. We didn't have weight rooms. We didn't have all this stuff. But now we didn't have coaching from Pee Wee League up. You know, I threw the ball in the sandlot. You know what I mean? But now you got kids playing Pop Warner. I think they starts at 7 years old. And you got young kids now eating the right thing. They get a certain age, they got a professional teaching them how to weight. Okay, if I want, let's say me being a quarterback, I want to make my arm strong. They got guys now that can tell you exactly what you need to do to make your arm strong. So when you come down with that ball, you got 5. I didn't have any of that. I used a piece of rubber. That's what I did. And the guys now, because they've been training professionally with professionals for so long, they're bigger, much bigger, stronger, and they got everything to work with. I mean, think about it. If I think when I came to Tampa, I might have been 190 pounds. But think about if I had a training table where they fed me steak and protein and all this kind of stuff every day. We didn't have that. But just think about it. We didn't even have a what I call a weight room at Valley. We had a few little weights. The biggest thing that I did was run and did push-ups.
So which era was better? A better? You saying this era is the better athlete?
No, no. I'm not going to even compare eras simply because it's not fair for me to compare us with them and them with us because the eras are different. When I was playing ball, just here's an example. Nowadays, the guy throws the ball 45 to 55 times a game. I threw the ball max 28, maybe 30 times, maybe. And I still had over 8,000 yards in 4 years. And the balls that I threw was 10, 15, 20 yards down the field. We didn't have no angles where we dropping it right out here. We threw it down the field. Now is that bad? Now bad then? No. My era, that's what it calls for because think about it. I'm playing against a guy. I'm trying to think of that corner name that went to Alcorn, but let me just think. Say I'm playing against somebody like I'll say James Hunter, first round draft pick for Detroit that went to Grambling. I had to give my receiver time to get off the line and make a move. You ain't gonna throw no little ball right here on James Hunter right there. You understand what I'm saying? So the game is just different. You know, I couldn't slide. Hell, I just told you I got 4 stitches put in my lip. Wasn't no sliding. I had to, hey, I got my shoulder hurt running out of bounds. Okay, so you really can't compare them to us and us to them. But I can tell you this, we got a lot of Hall of Famers with the little stuff that we had to work with.
Well, having said that, Parnell, the reason I asked that question is you guys had more players going in the NFL back then without all the equipment, without all the nutrition, than you have coming out of the SWAC now with all of these 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s
Right.
throughout the year,
Right.
training year round.
But also the slack on the HBCU is this. Still now is that our HBCUs, we still don't have that. Think about if the team Alcorn have right now had a $70 million athletic complex with all the bells and whistles. Think about it, Mississippi Valley had all of the bells and whistles. I could go in my room when I finish and hit a button, and if I'm playing receiver and we playing Alcorn, and I can hit a button, and if I'm playing this guy, he gonna be playing on my side. I can just pull up him covering people, just him, because that's who's gonna be on my side most of the time. Or if an offensive lineman, if he playing against Lawrence Pillars, he can go to his room and mash a button. It comes up on his big screen, Lawrence Pillars. Okay, when he put this hand down, he put this foot back, he gonna charge inside. If he got this hand down, he's sitting this way, he gonna bull rush me. If he got this hand down, or if he moving his leg, he gonna rush me outside. If he straight up, got both of his legs even, they got a stunt coming. You follow what I'm saying? You could diagnose a lot of what you're gonna be going against, so you can better prepare yourself. But the talent and the heart had to kick in when we were playing back then. You don't have all this. You know, we had an 8. Huh?
So basically, you're saying if the scales were balanced, you would have a lot more players out of the SWAC going to going in the NFL draft than you have now, because they would have a level playing field as related to the workouts, the nutrition, and so on.
I would say better. I didn't get into all of it because you got to look at your living conditions, you got to look at your equipment and all of that. That stuff I was just referring to earlier just had to do with, the film session, the weight room, the coaching. Our coaches made what we needed to lift to get strong. Like I say, I built my arm with a inner tube rubber. Well, my daddy cut that inner tube. I had a piece about like this with a knot on one end, and I used to take that thing and do like this and grab it and come over my shoulder like this. So when I'm coming across, I had a little whip to it, and I used to do it like this. So when I'm throwing, I could put my body into it, and that was something that I had a chance to look at James Shaq Harris, and I developed that, just watching. He was the only somebody that I had that I could even look at to say, okay, well, this is how it's done. Was him. You follow what I'm saying? Well, yeah. Now, a good example, which is great, Shedeur Sanders worked out with Tom Brady. You don't get no better than that.
Yeah, okay. All right, man.
Well, Parnell, do you think we have seen the last of the great SWAC days? We probably won't get that back anymore, huh?
Well, no, you can't. You never can bring back the time, but the SWAC game is on the move. The SWAC game is on the move. And like I say, and when you look at it, you can just kind of see the games that you saw this week with HBCUs. There was a lot more thumping to it than maybe it was last year. You understand what I'm saying? It seems like to me, because the transfer portal has been a benefactor for HBCUs. You know what I'm saying? Guys now are saying, hell, why do I need to stay at Southern Miss or Alabama and sit on the bench for 3 years? Hell, I can go to Jackson State or Mississippi Valley or Alcorn and play now. because
Yeah.
you get better as you play. You don't
I,
get you don't
go ahead.
I
I
don't
didn't mean
think,
to cut you off.
huh?
I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, Parnell.
No, I don't think, and this is just my opinion. I don't think you can just get better by practicing. I think you practice and you get better in the game, because the main competition is where your talent and your mentality of the game really rise to the level, to where, you can, you can get this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Practice is gonna get you ready for it, but in between the lines is where you're gonna rise to allow you to get this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense.
So you have a question?
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I can have a ending question from my vantage point. My
okay.
my last question for you, Parnell, since we talking about SWAC then SWAC now, let me ask you a question about uh your show, the SWAC then show. What you gonna bring to that show, man?
Well, my intentions and what I want to bring to the listening audience is the fact that back then, guys were hard nosed, they were smart, and they wanted to be an HBCU graduate and play at an HBCU. We had nowhere else to go, and those coaches, they were their intentions, and they understood when their parents put us in there, handed us off to them. Like I said, they was going to finish the job, and if they finished the job, they were going to have great athletes, championship teams, great young men that's going to come back and give to the school, help out, make sure, their contributions back to their university, just like it is when they pay their electricity bill, their mortgage. Hey, I'm able to pay my electricity bill and my mortgage because of what I got from this HBCU. You understand what I'm saying? If it ain't but pennies, pennies make dollars. And you know what dollars can do.
Sound like you mad on that, Parnell. I mean, your bottom lip still poked out, man. What's up with that?
Well, I just want you to know how serious I am about the SWAC then and HBCUs. I mean, all I have to do is look in the mirror and look at myself. You know what I mean? How God has blessed me as a result of an HBCU and my daddy saying, hey, I'm putting you with this man. And you go down there, and he said, you do what this man tell you to do, and you work hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. So, Mike, you got anything else?
No, but it seems like to me that Parnell said he had some of the best days of his life right there at Mississippi Valley State.
Not some, but the best days of my life. I mean, it could get better as I go forward, but when I look at where I am now, how I got there and where I am now, hey man, like I say, I cherish this. My wife and I was my greatest helpmate that a guy could ever have, because like I say, my son was born the beginning of my sophomore year. I finished college in 4 years, and I'm still with that same lady.
Wow.
You understand what I'm
Yep.
saying? So hey, my growth has a lot to do with her. And a lot of guys don't like to give that kind of credit to their wife, but I'm happy to.
Parnell, let the audience know where's your wife from?
My wife is from Greenwood, Mississippi.
Okay.
She was Ernestine Johnson, but she been Ernestine Dickinson for for 46 years.
He's
But
saying that very proudly.
and I am. But the way I got to 51 years because I dated her 5 years before we got married, and those 30 years that we were together was so good. The 5 years that I dated her, I grandfathered those in to make 51.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, partner, as we move into the SWAC now portion of the show, and we've been on here right at going on an hour. We're not gonna be on here too much longer. Just briefly, some of the games we got coming up this weekend. Let's go back to last weekend first. What's your opinion on that Jackson State FAMU game last weekend?
Well, as I mentioned early, the transfer portal has done remarkable things for some teams. And if you look at that FAMU game, you can see a lot of those transfers in made major plays against Jackson State. And of course, they had good coaching as well. And now, is Jackson State FAMU that better than Jackson State? I can't say that, but I will say the best team won that day because they played better. It's just like somebody that played golf. Guy may tell you he a 2, 3, or 4 handicap. Could be. But the day you play him, is that 3 or 4 handicap gonna show up? He could get beat by a 10 handicap. So it's just who shows up that day. You know what I mean? But you gotta have some talent. You gotta have some Jims and Joes. You gotta have a plan. You gotta have some coaching. And it was. I didn't get to see the game. I saw snippets of it, but it was a SWAC game. It was a SWAC game. And
so what's your prediction this week? I know you didn't get to see much of the Jackson State game. Did you see much of the Southern game to make a decision on which one of these teams has a leg up on the other one?
Well, I think you got to pick the ones that won that's got a leg up. I won't go past this week, so.
But partner, neither one of them won.
But look, FAMU won.
Yeah, but on our SWAC then SWAC now show, our game of the week this week is gonna be the Jackson State versus Southern game.
I'm going. Well, I would think. I saw some snippets of Southern and Jackson State, but Jackson State has a I think a well balanced team, and what I like about them, they got a strong running attack. They got 2 good backs, and doing this time, but this is they trying to diminish the role of a running back. But man, look, when you got somebody that can run the ball, you can control the clock, you can do play action, you can do all that. That gives you a real big chance to win. That's going to be a tough game, and they're playing at Jackson State this year, right?
No, the game is in Baton Rouge.
In Baton Rouge, yeah. I would probably say Jackson State would probably
put him in the books, Mike. Put him in the
book.
Jackson State, put him in the book.
You got it out of me, but hey, you got it out. You got it out of me. But remember, I said the teams that you gotta, give the feather to are the ones that won. And you just wanted to hear me say something about the losers.
Yeah, well,
no.
That's the game of the week.
That's the game of the week.
I know.
That's our game of the week.
I got you.
Alabama State is playing Miles. You got any? You want to say something about that particular football game?
You probably have to take Alabama State, over Miles. And again, I don't know about the transfer portal with Miles, but I know the transfer portal has been very valuable to Alabama State.
Well, let me say this: it was a close game last year, and if I'm not mistaken, I think that game went into overtime. So Miles is gonna probably come in and give him a pretty good dogfight. Now I don't know if they're just gonna have the horses to stay with Alabama State. But I thought it was so interesting last weekend that Parnell, you had 3 HBCU D2 teams to beat HBCU D1 teams.
Valley was one, and who was the other?
Bowie State beat Delaware State. And let me see who's the other one. I had it on the tip of my tongue.
Well,
Oh, Virginia. I think it was Virginia State beat Norfolk State.
okay. Well,
And then you had
let me say this about the D2 thing. To me, in this era, you can't give too much credence to being a D2 or a D3 because the transfer portal is live and kicking in every division.
yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So, I mean, yeah, you know, like this D2, but hey, you sprinkle 4 or 5, good guys in there from that transfer portal. You just D2 because of the number of boys you got.
Well, I'm gonna say this too. Now, a lot of people don't realize it. Now D2, I think what did they have? 35 scholarships, or maybe a little bit less than that.
Yep.
But now, one thing about D2 is they can get athletes that you can't get because they can't qualify.
Exactly.
And if you can get 11 of those and you put those boys in some pretty good shape,
That's
they're gonna
exactly
they gonna give you a dogfight.
that's exactly what I'm saying. The transfer portal makes a major difference now because you got guys. It used to be where if a guy didn't like where he was at, he was just stuck. But it ain't like that no more. It's not like that anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's a good thing because back then that only hurt us as African American ball players. We couldn't go where we want to go if who we had there left and that kind of stuff. So I like it, but I'm sure they trying to figure out how to control it. But I think it's a good thing because you got, hey, guys want to play. I know I can't say the guy asked me about when I went to Mississippi Valley if I can play. I said, man, look, I ain't have no choice. My daddy told me where to go, and that was that. I said that's why I worked as hard as I did, and that my going from my freshman year to my sophomore year, I'd had a super year. But in February, my coach called me, the offensive coordinator, head coach called me over and said, well, you had a good year, but I want to let you know this. We just signed a guy from down outside of Jackson that's got an arm like a bazooka. And I'm like, what dang? I just did all this. Now you got bringing somebody in to take my job. I was hurt about that, but what it did for me, it made me realize I couldn't make the team next year on what I did last year. And that was one of the greatest conversations that Coach Weatherly ever could have had to me because what it made me do, I stayed down there that summer and I worked out. I threw that ball and I did that. It set precedent to me that, hey, if you want to remain a starter, you better be you better have a hell of a arm and you better know what you're doing and do good every year, every down, every practice because you can be replaced too.
I think what you guys were talking about as far as D1, D2, and you mentioned that the transfer portal, and Mike mentioned the amount of scholarships. I think you also have to take in considerations the region that they're in. You can't in Mississippi, in our region, you have so many junior colleges. Those guys have opportunity to go to the junior college level first and then transfer to your FBS levels. And so that hurts big. That hurts us in this region. And in the region that some of those Division II teams are in, they don't have a lot of those community colleges.
Yep. Yep. So it's a combination, but I don't lean hard on Division II like I used to because there's more access now, if that makes sense.
Well, we have PV playing Abilene Christian. Alcorn is playing Stephen F. Austin. Who else is on the schedule, Bledsoe?
Texas Southern is playing Toledo.
Yeah, Texas Southern playing Toledo, which is all pretty much like money games. I think we probably got about another week, week and a
You
2 weeks
got
before we get into
FAMU
spring play.
playing South Florida.
Yes, family playing South Florida.
Yeah, they playing here.
Yeah,
You
and
have Arkansas Pine Bluff playing Tennessee State.
yeah, that's the Southern Heritage Classic.
Heritage Classic.
And
You
Grambling
have
is playing at LSU.
Yep.
you have Bethune-Cookman playing Savannah State.
State. Yep. Yep. It's a good schedule coming up this week, but the big game, like you said, is Jackson State and Southern.
And they are sold out. No tickets available.
At Southern.
At Southern.
Well, Mumford will be cranking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boombox Classic.
Yep.
Well, it's actually the Pete Richardson Classic.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I was with him this weekend.
Yeah, I saw that picture of you and Pete
Yeah.
Richardson together.
I was see a great guy. Yep, great guy. He said, "Man, I remember you." I'm like, "Remember me?" I didn't realize he was there when I was playing.
He was probably coaching when you were playing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't realize. I thought the other guy was the coach.
Well, I don't think he was in the SWAC then. He was probably coaching up in the Midwest or somewhere before he.
Okay.
Yeah, he was probably in the MEAC coaching.
Yeah.
Somewhere in
I'm trying to think of the other coach name because he's in the Black College Hall of Fame as well as a contributor. That was at Southern. Can't think of his name. Yep.
Is Coach Mumford in the Black College Hall of Fame yet?
Coach Mumford, yes.
Okay.
Coach Mumford was at
Southern.
Light Skin.
I don't know. They probably brought him in posthumously, but
yeah, I'll have to look. I know one of the other coaches from Southern is in there. I think that is him. Light-skinned guy with curly hair. I can't think of his name right now.
Well, fellas, as we close this show for tonight, any closing thoughts?
Well, just to comment, I appreciate talking with you guys, and kind of going back a little bit is always good to go back, and it's hard for me to go forward not remembering what I did back. I don't go back, but it's hard to go forward when you forget where you come from, and so that's why it's so important to have a SWAC then and a SWAC now, because we can't forget how we got here.
Well, guys, we did fail to mention that this is episode 1 of SWAC Then, SWAC Now.
All right.
Featuring Parnell,
Hey
Dirt, Dickinson.
I like the ring you got on that, man. Hey, man, I appreciate you, Braves. Y'all all right?
Every now and again.
Y'all all right? Y'all all right?
The one thing you can't say about the Alcorn Braves is that we're not hospitable. We're a very hospitable tribe.
Well, like I say, one of my best buddies. But until he ain't hospitable when we get them sticks in our hand. Listen, he go with that statement that Cash used to say. break a gnat back with a sludge hammer. Yep.
Let me say, he whooped you so much on the golf course, he sent you back to get a master's degree.
Look, he did. So, man, I gotta find something else to do until I can get myself together.
Yeah, Jimmy can hit that golf ball, man.
Yeah, but I'm holding my own right now, though.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Bledsoe, there. You have any closing comments?
Yes, I'll say to all the audience and people in listening land that the three of us have a very good opportunity to share some of the excitement of the SWAC Den years back in the day, revisit those days, and also have some comments about what's going to be upcoming in the SWAC. We're not just going to be limited to football season, so we're going to have a lot of things to say in the near future.
Right. And I guess my only closing comments would be, hey, make sure you tune in to the next show of SWAC Then and SWAC Now, because we've got some interesting conversations and some interesting people that you're going to have a chance to listen to and hear their stories.
This is our first show. We will be advancing at some point in our show. We may decide to take some call-ins. Well, we will be taking some call-ins, and we will be going live. So this is our first one. We just want to do a recorded one, and we'll upload it on YouTube and put it on our social media handles so you guys can go out there and take a look at it. To everyone that's going out to the game,
give us your feedback too.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, and if you got any, give us your feedback. Give us suggestions. Anything that you see that we think we may need to change as far as formatting of the show, let us know. You have anything else, Bledsoe?
Signing off, SWAC Then, SWAC Now, dog.
I tell you what we're going to do, since our game of the week this week is JSU versus Southern. For a little bit of our Southern fans, we're going to shoot this out there, which is Southern's fight song or their school song. And we'll let that play a little bit.
Mike, you got it. When you hear them bands like that, it brings back memories.
And for my JSU folks out there, our fans, we're going to let them hear a little bit of this here. That's wartime, ain't it, Parnell?
That's it.